What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Reseller Greatness Podcast. I am so thrilled for everybody that joins in, everybody that watches. The comments are great. You guys are learning a lot, heeding a lot of the advice, doing stuff that's actionable and making improvements to your business. And I just want to thank everybody out there in YouTube land for checking out the videos, checking out the podcast. I'm having a lot of fun doing the YouTube, getting the messages, all the questions, helping as many people as possible. The Wednesday night lives have been tremendous. And like I said from you guys, I don't need anything from you. I'm not looking for anything from you. I just want your attention and then just to make a commitment to be actionable. And, we can have these conversations. We can talk about reselling. We could talk about eBay. We can talk about making money. We could talk about building businesses, but unless we turn off the computer, that stuff sticks into our brain and we leave the computer and do actionable items or put this into action, then it's just for entertainment purposes. And that's a different thing than what I'm trying to do personally. I want all of you guys to, listen, gain some helpful value from it, and then make your business better, build the business around the life that you want to live. And, hopefully be able to use reselling as a vehicle to achieve exactly what you're looking for. And there's a wide gamut of people who listen to the podcast, which is tremendous. There's a lot of new people. There's people that do this part-time. There's people that do this with a full-time job, supplement retirement, supplement their income, full-time, big time, full-time, and then huge time, full-time, enterprise level, that people that I have met, talked to, communicated with. And, I hope every single person across the spectrum is truly able to find some value. So I do appreciate the time that you give to me. And I always try to make sure that everything we talk about is actionable, not on here just pontificating or self-serving. I just want everything to hit you and land for you on at least a nugget or two that you could take from every single podcast. So I hope that I am doing that and delivering that for you guys. It does take, a lot of brainstorming and a lot of thinking to, come on here every single week and try to just continue to build on the previous episode, or add another layer, to really help everybody. So I hope I'm doing a good job. If you guys are liking it and are picking up some nuggets, post it in the comments. I respond to everything and I like hearing from you guys. So, whether this helps you and you agree with it, whether you have, a slightly different opinion, that's fine. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, and I love different opinions. And at the end of the day, like, I'm not the boss of you, I'm not the boss of anybody. Everyone is free to run their business how they see fit. I am just speaking from, 15 years of experience, doing it at the highest level inside of my niche, which is a very competitive and very saturated niche. And if you look on YouTube, you look on social media, there is nobody anywhere around that is number one in their niche that, comes on and really just tries to help people from the bottom of their heart. So I think that, as long as I can come on here, speak with people, and they can actually gain value out of it, then I'll continue to do it for, as long as humanly possible. So like I say, I don't need to want anything from anyone listening to the podcast or watching the YouTube channels. I just want, your attention to what we're talking about. That way it's not just going in one ear and out the other. And just a commitment to do something actionable based on the discussion. So I want to talk about a wide range of things today, and the conversation might go in a bunch of different directions, but that's okay too sometimes. We can only find so many ways to say the same thing every single week because the principles more or less are the same and really never change. So it's okay to go in a couple different directions every now and then, and I'm okay with that. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about, and a few people have sent me this in the DM, and it's a very interesting topic to discuss. So this came from a guy named Justin, and I edited out his photo, edited out his last name just for privacy purposes. I don't know the guy. And it came out of the Facebook group BOLO Buddies, Resellers, and Thrifters Unite. So I'm personally am not a member of this group, but shout out to this group. And like I said, probably 5 or 6 people have sent me this DM on Instagram, just as I guess what are my thoughts and is this for real? Um, because we think about doing 100,000 and we think, maybe everything is great and we're set for life. So Justin made a great post. After doing some serious number crunching and reflecting, I have come to realize me grossing $100,000 a year on eBay is nowhere near enough anymore. After all fees, time, shipping, etc., I would have made more money at an entry level 9 to 5. I live in a very modestly priced area, and even with that, I would need to gross around 300,000 to make equivalent to a 50 to $60,000 a year job. After doing this so long, it is very humbling and scary to realize it may be time for me to make some changes for my life to better provide for my family. This is a tremendous post. This is a tremendous self-reflection. And again, shout out to Justin. Don't know him, never talked to him. Not, I'm not a member of this Facebook group, but I do want to, give credit where credit is due. This is a tremendously important post. And again, shout out to him for knowing his numbers and shout out for him for really being realistic. So let's break the whole thing down. After doing some serious number crunching and reflecting, I have come to realize me grossing 100,000 a year on eBay is nowhere near enough anymore. So let's break it down. Grossing is top line. That's the big number at the end of the year before everything is taken out. Shipping, cost of goods, eBay fees, miscellaneous expenses. That is the big number. So he's come to realize that having a big number of having $100,000 worth of money come to him from eBay and eBay sales is nowhere near enough anymore. So this 100,000 includes the cost of the item, shipping, everything that's applicable is this 100,000. After fees, time, and shipping, etc., I would have made more money at an entry-level 9 to 5 job. And this is unfortunately the case. For most people, if you go to your sales tab, you scroll down about halfway, 3/4 of a way, and you can pause this right now and go to your sales tab. Scroll down about 3/4 of the way. There's going to be a section in there called seller fees. And seller fees are defined by what fees you pay in shipping to get your item sold, insertion fees, promoted listings fees, final value fees, any kind of fees that is involved in your seller fees. The other half of your seller fees is shipping, what you received for shipping. So seller fees is defined by the fees that we are paying eBay and the money we are spending for our labels. So most people are around 40 to 50% seller fees. Now, seller fees is a little bit tricky. So you need to understand what data we're looking at and how to assess the data set. So since seller fees are defined as eBay fees and shipping fees, they can be skewed. And the example that I'm going to give is just one example. It is not the end all be all. It is just one example. Most people have an eBay seller fee of between 40 and 50%. Again, this is a little bit skewed, so you have to understand. If you sell an item for $10 with $5 shipping, you have collected $15 from the customer. We're not going to count sales tax because that makes this example just more complicated than need be. So just surface level for round numbers, small numbers, easy calculations. You sell an item for $10. You charge $5 in shipping. You have received $15. The $5 in shipping passes through your account and then goes to the post office where you buy a $5 label. You are left with $10 pre-eBay fees. eBay fees are 13%, so that's another $1.30. You're going to be left with $8.70 out of that $15 sale before cost of goods. So since we are talking about seller fees, on a $10 sale with $5 shipping, $5 is already 33% of the $15 that we've collected. So immediately, this has a 33% seller fee before we get to the actual fee of 13%. So this sale, $10 plus $5 shipping, you receive $15 to your account. In this example, you have a 33% shipping fee, a 13% final value fee. This brings your seller fee, according to the sales tab for this transaction, 46%. This is before 10% final value fee. That would be 56%, because that would be a 33% shipping fee, not fee, a 33% shipping collection, and then a 23% final value fee. That would bring this individual sale to a 56% seller fee. So this is where it gets tricky. Since this is percent based, the lower your average sale price is, the higher your shipping, the higher your percentage is going to be. The higher your average sale price is, the lower your shipping cost is comparatively, the lower your seller fees are going to be. So we did the example, $10, $5 shipping, 33% already of that sale is a shipping label. 13% is your final value fees. Another 10% promoted listing. You could do 7%, whatever you want to do. We're just doing round numbers. That brings you to 33 plus 13 plus 10. That's going to get you to 56%. Now, if you sell an item for $100 plus $5 in shipping, now the shipping pass-through of the $5 is 5% of this transaction. We still have our 13% final value fee. So if this item was sold with no promoted listings, a $100 sale with a $5 shipping charge would be an 18% seller fee. If you had promoted listings of 10%, it would be a 28% seller fee. $5 for the pass-through shipping, final value fee of 13.3%, promoted listings fee of 10%. So in one instance, we sold an item for 10, $5 shipping, and that brought us between a 46% seller fee and a 56% seller fee. With a $100 sale, $5 shipping, that brought us to an 18% seller fee and a 28% seller fee, somewhere between there based on promoted listings, if it's sold for that and what your percentage is. So that's the first and foremost understanding that we need to have when we are looking at the seller fees section inside of the sales tab, where it is percent based, so it's going to be skewed on what your average sale price is and what you're charging for shipping. So we need to take that into account. But at the end of the day, we all pay the same final value fee. And then if you choose, you can have promoted listings fees on top of that. So 100K gross, most people, and post yours in the comment if you've pressed pause and if you've gone to the sales tab and if you have seen what your seller fees are, post it in the comments. Where are you at? For most resellers, they are going to be somewhere between 40 and 50% seller fees in most instances. If you're below that, excellent. If you're above that, not ideal, but not horrible either, because you can run a beautiful business with a higher percent seller fees. It's just going to require more what? More volume, more listing, more photos, more selling, more shipping. That's fine. Every single business model works. You just have to figure out how to make it work. So $100,000 top line, most of that $100,000, sorry, most is not the right word. A good chunk or a good percentage of the $100,000 is shipping, money that we've never even seen. So if you sold 10,000 items at $10 each, and you did $5 shipping, I mean, do the math. A lot of that went to the post office. So the post office made a bunch of money on us. That money passed through us. However, that was on our top line. So a lot of our big number at the end of the year, a lot of it is postage that we don't even see. We don't get credit for that. It's invisible money to us. So we have 100,000. 40 to 50% is the usual seller fee for most people who do what we do. So let's split it in the middle and let's go to 45%. So $100,000 minus $45,000 leaves us with $55,000 after shipping. And in order to sell $100,000 worth of stuff, I don't think it's unfair to say that you spent $33,000 on inventory for that. Most people, buy stuff for five, try to triple their money, maybe quadruple their money if you're lucky. You've spent somewhere between 20, 25, and $35,000 for this stuff. I think that is very generous. So out of the 55,000 that came to us after labels, we have to take out our cost of goods, which could be to get 100,000. And again, this is just one example. There's a million trillion ways to do this. It's just one generic example that a lot of people fit into. To get $100,000 in sales, you've most likely spent between $20,000 and $35,000. So take your pick. We have $55,000 after postage. If you've spent $20,000 to get 100 in sales, you've got $35,000 left. If you spent $35,000 to get $100,000 in sales, you have as little as $20,000 left. So this 100,000 is going to give you somewhere between $20,000 and $35,000 profit after we pay our labels and after our cost of goods. This is before any reinvesting back into our business for growth. This is before any taxes that we have to pay. IRS, if you owe state taxes, this is before any of that. This is before any gas to go to the thrift store. This is before any poly bags. This is before any computers we may have bought. You bought a scale, you bought a camera, you pay a portion of your phone bill that is accordance to your business. This is before internet. This is before if you have a storage unit. All of this is before those expenses. We are left with somewhere between $20,000 and $35,000, depending on what your cost of goods is. Again, before reinvestment, before any other miscellaneous overhead, before your storage unit, before any of that. So $100,000 in sales in 2024 is going to leave you between $20,000 in profit and $35,000 in profit in this particular example, which is not out of the ordinary at all. So in order to make $100,000 a year in 2024, realistically, if you're hitting a home run and getting fantastic items, it's going to be between $250,000 and probably $350,000 gross sales. Because remember, a large portion of that is going to be shipping labels, which just pass through us and we've never even seen the money. So if you're hitting a home run grand slam, you probably have to do $250,000. If you're running a common, everyday, regular type business, you probably have to do $350,000 gross top line to see $100,000 in your bank account in 2024. And that's tough to do. That is a large mountain to climb for beginners and for seasoned sellers. So let's go back to Justin's post just to recap. After doing some serious number crunching and reflecting, I have come to realize me grossing $100,000 on eBay is nowhere near enough anymore. After fees, time, and shipping, I would have made more money at an entry-level 9-to-5. And as we said, 100,000 minus 40 to 50% in seller fees, we called it 45%. That left us with $55,000 after labels and fees. Cost of goods anywhere between $20,000 and $35,000. That left us and Justin somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000 to $35,000 profit before any other miscellaneous business expenses before paying his mortgage, before paying rent in an apartment, whatever you have to do to live your life, it left you with $20,000 to $35,000 to continue your business, other miscellaneous overhead, and pay your personal bills. I live in a very modestly priced area, and even with that, I would need to gross around 300,000 to make equivalent to a 50 to 60 a year job. So I think this is a little bit low, but it is not out of the ordinary either. If you are running the business of buy for 7, sell for 12 plus shipping, buy for 7, sell for 15 plus shipping, buy for 7, sell for 18 plus shipping, you can absolutely find yourself into $300,000 a year gross and making 50, 60, $75,000. Absolutely. After doing this so long, it is very humbling, scary to realize it may be time for me to make some changes in my life to better provide for my family. So with this said, anybody who does 100 and makes 35, hats off to you. Anyone who does 200,000 and makes 75, hats off to you. Anyone who does 300,000 and makes $100,000 a year, hats off to you. For most people, myself included, doing $150,000 in sales and making $40,000 or $50,000 a year, that is probably more than I can make on the free open market. And if I have to do this and, grind my way through it to make $50,000 a year, hats off. I have the utmost respect for every single person who's doing that. There is no problem in the world with being your own boss, doing this, selling on eBay. It's a lot of work. It's a hell of a lot of work. We all know this. If you're listening to this, you know this. This podcast is not about tips, tricks, hacks, easy buttons, get rich quick. This ain't the place. If you are listening to this, all of us are of the same exact mind where we know how much of a grind this is. And for anybody to do this and make $50,000 a year profit, roughly $1,000 a week, hats off. Congratulations. Great work. That's the average salary for most people in America. Most people doing this don't have a college education, myself included. I would not be able to find a job somewhere that would pay me $50,000 a year. So if I have to sell 150, 200,000 and grind it out, I'm in a lot better position than where I would be otherwise. So there's no shade, no shame in grinding this business out, carving yourself a living, taking care of your family, and having a beautiful business. No shame at all. The question of how hard is it to make $100,000 in 2024? I think it's hard. I think it's really, really, really hard. Especially if you are beginning, I think it's really, really hard. Especially if you are not evolving and keeping up with the trends and the changes that we need to do. I think it's really, really hard. I do not think it's impossible because I see these people every single day in the group, but I think it's hard. I think there's been easier times to do it, but I think it's very difficult. I think that the thrift stores are changing and have changed. The bins have changed. Rag houses have changed. Everything has changed. The landscape of eBay has changed. Promoted listings are a thing. They have changed. Competition has changed. Social media. There's a lot of changes that has made this very, very difficult. There is also a lot of people who really know how to do this, A lot of them are in the group. We talk about this 24 hours a day. And for those people that really know how to do this, it makes it very difficult for the people that do not know how to do this. And if you do not know how to do this, that's fine. You can learn, you can study, you can seek the knowledge, you can gain the education. You can. It's going to take time. It's a grind. This is a marathon. This is nowhere close to a sprint. This is a marathon. We're talking doing $100,000 and maybe walking away with $25,000 profit before we pay anything else. It's going to take a couple years to get some momentum going, build up this snowball to where things are actually, where we can start to see the light. And 2 weeks ago, I had the podcast with Isaiah. Love talking to that guy. Brilliant guy, such a young guy, 24 years old, asks the right questions, thinks about the right things. He did $198,000 gross last year, made enough money to take care of himself, take care of his wife, take care of a brand new baby, made enough money to pay all of his bills. Trying to get over that hump where now he can do something a little bit more, pay all of his bills, take care of his family, grow his business, then have some options and opportunities. And he's been doing this for 3 or 4, maybe even close to 5 years. And, he's really just now to the point these last 2 years or so where he's able to, semi-comfortably afford what he needs to do to take care of his family, which is a beautiful thing. Anybody who is able to do that by reselling, hats off, utmost respect. To take that second level and put it into the next gear, like we talked about in that discussion, which is titled, sell through versus profit. That is an entirely different game, and it becomes even more so complex because it involves infrastructure, and infrastructure costs money, and money means we need to sell more items, unfortunately, to kind of be in the same place before we can hit that second gear and grow. But for most people, we're still trying to be in first gear and try to find the first gear. And the first gear is, find enough items, sell enough items where we can pay our bills and take care of our family. And let me show you guys something just to reiterate the point. If you go to Terapeak, we'll go over here to Terapeak. You can pick any brand you want to pick. We'll pick Nike shirt. We'll just pick Nike. How about that? We'll pick Nike. You can go to any brand you want to go to. We'll pick Nike. $1,162,000,000 in the last 3 years sold. And it has these handy dandy buttons over here where it shows you different graphs. Total sold every single day, roughly 100,000 units sold every single day over the last 3 years. Great. Tells you the average sale price and the total number of units, an overlay. Excellent. Shows you the distribution of listings. The bulk of them fall between a penny and $12,000. This graph doesn't really mean much. It's a throwaway graph. But this next graph is the graph that we want to look at, we want to pay attention to. It's going to show us the distribution of sales between sellers. And perhaps 3 years is too much for eBay to calculate. So we'll make it easy and go to 1 year. It's going to be the exact same. $340 million in sales. And the distribution of sales for sellers is truly eye-opening, where the bulk of sales is going to a minority amount of the sellers. So in this instance, 10% of sellers represent 51% of the sales for Nike. So we're talking 150 to $170 million are going to just 10% of the sellers, and 90% of the sellers get the rest of the $170 million. 25% of the sellers are getting almost 70% of the sales. 10% of the sellers are getting $170 million, 180 million bucks. 90% has to fight over everything else. 25% of sellers is getting 70% of sales, basically everything. And you can do this for every single brand. The result is the same. Tommy Bahama, $7.5 million in sales for the last 1 year. %10 of the sellers represent 49% of the sales. 25% of the sellers, again, 70% of the sales, give or take. So 10% of the sellers are getting almost $4 million worth of sales. The other 90%, you guys can fight over the other 4 million. You could do this for every single brand. Nike, Under Armour, Tommy Bahama. There is a small subset of people that are getting the majority of all of the sales on eBay. It's something really to think about. We need to figure out how or why a small percent, 10% of the sellers, if you got 100 sellers, 10 of them are getting 50% of all the money for just about every single brand you want to look up on Terapeak. So what does that say? That says if you want to have a fighting chance at doing this, we have to do everything humanly possible to get ourselves in that top 10% of sellers. Because I don't want to fight with 90% of people for the scraps, the other half. I don't want to do that. Let me get up with the top 10% and have the bounty of all the sales. The top 10% of eBay is getting 50% of the sales site-wide. The top 10% of sellers is getting 50% of the entire site sales. 90% of you guys have to get the remaining bottom half. The top 25% sellers on eBay are getting almost 75% of the sales. 90% of you guys have to fight over the remaining 25%. So how do we get ourselves in the top 10%, the top 25%? It's everything that we talk about. Good titles. Titles is of the utmost importance. Good keywords. Good photos that accurately display the item. Good shipping price. Good return policy. Good item specifics that match. Good description. Good product selection, because we can list items and if they never sell, we don't get credit for those. We only get credit for the items that actually sell. If it doesn't sell, it doesn't matter. It's like if a tree falls in the woods, no one knows it fell because no one was there to witness it. You list items that don't sell, nobody knows. We get the question and it says, I have a bunch of items that I don't think will ever sell. Will it hurt my store to take them down? The customers aren't even going to notice that they're gone. They didn't even notice those items were there in the first place. So if they're never going to sell, would it hurt my store to take them down? eBay's not going to miss them. The customer's not going to miss them. Who's it going to hurt? They're never going to sell. So to get into that top 10%, the difference maker is the product that we're picking up has to have a fighting chance of at least selling. That's half the battle. The remaining half of the battle is the importance of the keywords that we are choosing to put in the title. That is the difference maker. And if you go all the way back to the beginning of my YouTube channel, and I only have 30 videos, it's not a long scroll. I have a video that I did with Terry. It's titled Reseller Rescue. And I went over the importance of keywords. We did a lot of situations. We did a lot of real world explanation on the computer of the difference between using the correct keywords, whether or not particular items are going to sell. So the importance of keywords is paramount. If you list an item, I don't know, Alpha Industries jacket. If you title it Alpha Industries jacket, men's large, full zip, basic keyword, which is a basic keyword. Alpha Industry, men's large, full zip, green, black, nylon. That's the title we're going with. Alpha Industry, men's large, green, black, full zip, nylon. That's our title. Maybe you're out there thinking, great title. Not a good title. The only way this item is going to show up, if somebody searches Alpha Industries jacket, great. A lot of people search that. We get credit for that search result. The only way this is going to turn up, if someone types in Alpha Industry green jacket, Alpha Industry full zip jacket. Do many people search that? Now we're getting less and less and less. Alpha Industry nylon jacket. Those are the only instances where these item is going to show up. If someone searches those string of characters, and also item specifics are searchable, so by default, we get credit for those. If somebody searches Alpha Industries military jacket, you're gone. You're invisible in search. They will never be able to find your jacket. If somebody searches Alpha Industry flight jacket, adios. You don't have that keyword. If someone searches Alpha Industry bomber jacket, adios. You're gone. If someone searches Alpha Industry coat, if someone searches Alpha Industry windbreaker, if you have a windbreaker and you don't include the word, you're gone. The eBay search, it tells you exactly what it is. eBay is best match. eBay is sorted by best match. Best match is going to be dictated by your keywords, how you are choosing to make your listing, and how best you are matching the customer search query. And for our example, Alpha Industries jacket, men's large, green, black, full zip nylon. If somebody types in Alpha Industry military, Alpha Industry flight, Alpha Industry bomber, Alpha Industry windbreaker, Alpha Industry, something other than what you have put in because you've neglected to put the proper keywords into it, how can we sit here and say, why is my item not showing up where it's supposed to be in a search that is labeled best match? We are not the best match because we are not giving the best keywords in accordance to what the customer is searching. How can eBay match up our item when we are not giving them the proper keywords, the proper data, the proper cadence of words so that they can best match us to the customer? How? This is a Florida Marlins hat. If I put in the title, Florida Marlins hat, and someone searches Florida Marlins hat, that's a best match. This is a Florida Marlins hat. If I type in Jacksonville Jaguar hat, and I have a picture of this, and a customer searches Florida Marlins hat, This hat will never show up in a million years. Never going to show up because this hat is labeled as a Jacksonville Jaguars hat. Never going to be there because it's not a best match because I didn't put in the correct data to get the best match for the keywords that is required to sell this item. If I put on there Purple Monkey dishwasher and someone searches a Florida Marlins hat, it's not going to show up because I didn't give eBay the proper keywords. So that way they can best match my item. So the sellers that are having the most success are lining up their items with the best match of search queries that customers are typing in. So they have a relationship with their customer through eBay on what the customer is going to type in and how can I bestly match that? How? I need to know the keywords that this particular customer is going to search in order for them to find my item. So the people that are looking for a Florida Marlins hat, what other keywords are they going to type in? Are they going to type in the brand? New Era? Perhaps that needs to be put in a keyword. Are they going to type in a fitted hat? Do they want a snapback hat? Do they want a strap back hat? Those are keywords for style. Which one are they going to type in? What do I have? How can I best match what they are going to type in with what I have and use eBay as a translation service to match up seller language, buyer language, and eBay be the translator in the middle that can make us both communicate and understand each other. What keywords is the buyer going to type, the buyer going to speak in buyernese, and we understand this in sellernese, and eBay is the independent, unbiased, third-party translation arbiter between buyernese, sellernese. Where are we going to land together? We have to speak the same language. And we are not speaking the same language. That's why our items are not showing up. Time and time and time again, people join the group. One of the calls that I link them to immediately once they make their introduction post is the title structure call. Never fails. Hey, I watched the title structure call. I'm selling stuff left and right that I've had in my store for years. No surprise to me. My response, and if you're in the group, say it with me. My response is always, it's funny how that works. I have been on eBay for 15 years. I totally dominated a very saturated category. I figured out very early on what the customer is looking for and how the customer is going to search for it and structured my titles accordingly. eBay has since released communication of exactly how they want items structured. And it's the exact same way that I have been doing it for 15 years. If eBay would have come out with documentation of how they want it done, and it was totally different than what we were talking about, my battleship would have got sunk. I would have been dead in the water as a bozo who didn't know what they were talking about. But eBay came out with communication, and it's what we've been talking about for 5 years in the group. The communication is out there for every single category. Press pause, go seek the knowledge. How does eBay want their title structured? That is the easy part of creating a listing. The hard part is what we've been talking about, those keywords. That's the hard part. eBay doesn't tell you those. We have to go out and find those. We have to go out and seek the knowledge. We have to go out and research, study, read resources, go on Instagram, go on social media, watch YouTube videos, retain the knowledge once we are receiving it. We have to go out and do that part. If we do not, it's not coming to us. No one has a chip you can download in the brain and just give you all the keywords. No one has that. Every single item, every single brand, every single category is different. A particular keyword for a particular shirt for a particular brand might be totally different from particular keywords from a different shirt of a different brand. Totally different customers, totally different keywords. A particular shirt from a brand might have totally different keywords from the same brand in a different particular shirt. If you have a vintage shirt, that requires different keywords. It's a different buyer. It's a different person. It's a different customer. If you have a present day Nike shirt versus a vintage Nike shirt, totally different keywords. For a vintage shirt, maybe you might want to point out a spell out graphic. Maybe you might want to point out an all over print. Maybe you might want to point out a large logo, a specific swoosh, a specific, Kobe Bryant logo, a single stitch, 50-50 cotton polyester blend, tri blend. Maybe you might want to take notice of certain things for a vintage shirt, where if you put those keywords in a shirt that the vintage guy is not going to wear, but his dad is going to wear, that's not going to work because dad is going to search differently from vintage guy kid. It's not going to work. They're not going to line up. You're not going to get a best match. Go to eBay right now, do a search. It defaults you to best match. Best match. And we have to match the keywords that the customer is typing in for our specific item. If we cannot match those, how can eBay match us up with the customer? We have item specifics, which help. Item specifics is eBay forcefully extracting a bunch of keywords from us so that way they can attempt to be the bilingual translator between us and the customer. They are forcefully extracting those keywords, so at least there's a starting point. But if we are competing with everybody who has to fill out required item specifics, each and every one of us has to do that. Most of us fill out recommended item specifics too. Still a very large pool of competition. Do you want to be directly competing with everybody who has to fill out required recommendations, required and recommended item specifics? Is that who we want to directly compete with? Or do we want to create separators on our listings and inside of our business that separate us from the crowd? Do we want to be that top 10%, that top 25% of listings of eBay stores, of businesses that have created separators inside of our listings to stand us out of the crowd of just hanging out with these guys who just use item specifics as keywords, who just recycle item specifics in the title? You don't get credit for recycling item specifics and putting them in the title. That's one search, one result, same in both places. Now, if you can have a synonym, that is a different keyword and that is a separator. Synonyms are separators. For example, Nike sweater. Nike sweater, men's large, blue, graphic, cotton. That's your title. Nike sweater, men's large, blue, graphic, cotton. That's on eBay somewhere. What synonyms can we put in this listing to have our item appear and appeal to a broader search? Synonyms. Synonyms are separators. Nike sweater, men's large. I don't know about you, but in some portions of the country, they refer to a sweater as a sweatshirt. Now, a sweatshirt has a unique definition. It's usually fleece lined with rib cuffs and a ribbed hem. That is the definition for a sweatshirt. However, it has become ubiquitous when referring to a sweater or sweatshirt. Just like a Q-tip is ubiquitous. A Q-tip is a cotton swab. Just like a Band-Aid is ubiquitous for a bandage. So how many people search Nike sweater? How many people search Nike sweatshirt? A ton search each, but if we don't have sweatshirt and we only have sweater, we're not showing up in the sweatshirt search results. Some people call them pullovers. Some people call them crew necks. Some people call them jumpers. All of those are synonyms. All of those are separators. They are not in item specifics. And if somebody searches Nike sweatshirt and you don't have that, adios. If somebody searches Nike crew neck and you don't have that, adios. Somebody searches Nike pullover, you don't have it, adios. Gone. You're not there. You have become invisible. Because we are not putting those separators, those keywords, those synonyms. If someone searches Nike shirt single stitch and yours is single stitch and you don't have that in there, adios, you have become invisible for that search. You're gone. So you have been eliminated from that competition. Customer cannot buy it because you did not bestly match it. There is no best match. You're gone. So if you want to make generic listings, you will have generic results. If you want to take some initiative, sit down, study, learn, seek knowledge, acquire knowledge, put it to work, you will have a beautiful eBay career filled with bountiful sales in the eBay utopia of a beautiful planet, a beautiful world. But if we want to have generic listings and put no other effort in addition on top of it, enjoy the 90% of other sellers who are fighting over the scraps of the remaining amount of sales. That's the bottom line. And if you go on eBay and you sell similar and you copy off of people with no rhyme and no reason, you're not learning how eBay works. You are learning how other people's store works, but you don't know why they are using particular keywords, so you will never be able to sell your own items. And eBay changes, eBay evolves. What used to work won't work forever. What used to work will eventually get phased out and not going to work. And if you are just copying, how do you know you're not copying off some bozo who you think is like, oh, wow, this listing looks great? It might be crap, but you're copying off of it because we don't know any better, because we have not taken the time to actually learn how to do this. We have to learn how to do this ourselves. We can't use these other listings that are probably bad as a crutch. We cannot do it. And if you are copying someone, unless you copy every single thing, you might be leaving out one word that is going to determine whether or not you get the sale. And there's a lot of people that copy my store, tens of thousands of people. My wife plays a game. She searches on eBay and tries to find stores that don't copy it. But a lot of you guys are making bad moves because you are forgetting to do one thing, one very crucial thing you are forgetting, and it results in your items never being able to sell. And in the title structure call in the group, I spent a good while explaining, running tests, years-long tests on items that I showed I sold for full price in a very short time. And I had the same exact item that I had literally for years marked down to $2, and no one ever bought them. I sold the item 5 times, quickly, great money. But I got this one over here that just refuses to sell, but this one is slightly different. I didn't do one thing in this as an experiment to see if it will ever sell. And even at $2, not even found in the search. It's impossible to find. You cannot find it. And those items don't sell. The only way those items sell is if you sort lowest to highest inside of the person's store. Now, after I've done the title structure call, some smart people have went in there and bought all of those. So those are long gone. That video is about a year old. So those are long gone. But it's right there, proof. And I run a lot of tests on eBay. That's how I have learned what works and what doesn't. I have been the most consistent person probably in the history of eBay. Have never missed a listing day in 15 years. Never. Not even once, not even came close. So when things change, I notice very quickly because I know I've changed nothing. I've listed the same amount, the same stuff, the same way, and it ain't working no more. I see the dip in impressions and traffic. I need to make an adjustment because eBay has made an adjustment. If you're inconsistent, you don't notice this stuff because you are used to inconsistent results. If you are consistent every single day for years, you know when eBay flips that switch and makes a change, and you have to figure it out and you have to adjust to the change. If you don't want to learn, no problem. eBay has a place for you. It's outside of the 10% that's getting all the sales. So the choice is yours ultimately. Everybody, the choice is yours listening to this. In the group, we have a ton of resources. We have the file section with tons of resources. One of the items in the file section is 75 pages long. If you've spent the time to read that, you would know every single synonym and every single keyword to get your item sold. It's one piece of information inside of the group that we have tons and tons of information. We have the file section. We have the deep dive document, which I've showed you guys before, that has 100 or 100 or more brands. All the tags are broken down. The sell-through rate is broken down. The nuances are broken down. What you should look for in specific brands, what you should leave behind in specific brands. Brett runs it. He also runs our men's call and our BOLO call. We have the most comprehensive list of deep dives of brands anywhere on the internet. We have that. We have the file section. We have all the calls led by all of the professionals who have been doing this for years and years and years. We're not talking, they just started doing this last year, 6 months ago. Nobody who is leading a call as an expert just started doing this last week. None of them. Nobody. I have put them in place because they have my utmost trust that they are going to guide you in the proper manner due to years and years and years of experience. Everything is on replay. Everything is there for you. I answer every single question in the group, and there's thousands of posts per month, and I'm right there and I answer every single one of them with a quality answer. Hey, is this real? No. This is why. Check out this call. This is why. Check out this resource. This is why. Did you check the RN number? Every single thing. I'm there. We're there. We got you back. So I appreciate everybody for listening to this episode. Shout out to Justin. Shout out to the BOLO Buddies, Resellers, and Thrifters Unite. Shout out to that group. Shout out to the people who sent me that post on the DM. It's tough to make 100,000 in gross sales. It's even tougher to bring home 100,000 and keep 100,000 in gross sales, but it is entirely possible. I did it. I know other people in real life that have done it. I know a bunch of people inside of the group that have done it. It is possible to bring home $100,000 a year in profit and keep it in your pocket, but it ain't going to happen unless you learn how eBay works. And the more people that learn how eBay works, the more difficult it is going to be for those people that refuse to learn how eBay works. So ultimately, choice is your guys. Don't need anything from anybody. Don't ask anything from anybody. I want attention, and I want you to do something actionable. Listen to this discussion, become an expert, study 20 minutes a day, learn your craft, have pride in your craft. become an expert on eBay. If you don't want to, no problem. You can run your business how you see fit. But I know there's going to be one person out there out of the thousands of people that listen to this. And every single time I turn on the camera, I just want to reach one person. That's my goal. So if there's one person out there that this hit truly how hard it is to make 100,000 and I got to get my act together and become an expert, mission accomplished. And congratulations to you for realizing we got to step it up and take it to the next level. All of us do, me included. Every single day I have to step up my game. And every single day I make sure that that is my obligation and my duty to step up my game and never become complacent. Because the market changes, and the market is not just the items selling. The market is the other sellers too. And I know 2,000 of them that are learning how to do this, and that makes it much more difficult for everybody else. So I appreciate everybody for hanging in there. I appreciate everyone for always checking out the podcast. And as I always say, don't be good, be great.